Welcome back to United TV, latest Manchester United news. And I have been saying this a lot. Too many to Manchester United. It still feels unrealistic. It still seems like a very difficult deal to do. And it still feels like, for me personally, that if Man United signed too many, he would be an excellent signing. And he could be probably the most suitable signing we could make this summer after Casemiro left. So at the moment, I'm going to go through the news and we're going to discuss the news. Also, there's updates on Alex Scott. There's more on Santos as well. I don't think there's much on Belieber, but he seems to be still linked to the club as well. So we're going to be looking for the too many stories. Quite a lot of different sources from Laurie Whitwell. We got Fabrizio talking about this as well. And there's quite a few stories. There's stories that we saw yesterday where Manchester United have gone to Madrid to discuss with Real Madrid whether there's an option here, whether they're going to be looking to move them on. And some sources are actually saying, a lot of sources, I'll have to say, they are coming mainly from the Spanish media. They are saying that Real Madrid are considering letting players go. And this is kind of one of the sources as well that we look at, is that Manchester United talking to Real Madrid, and Real Madrid are making difficult decisions in terms of they would prefer to make a sale before they spend big. And it looks like Real Madrid, that the Elise rumours that it looks like they are going to be trying to spend quite big on maybe one or two targets. Is Tchouaméni going to be a player they let go to fund that expenditure? And I get the feeling as well that this would not be a popular move with Mourinho. I think Mourinho would love to have a player like Tchouaméni at the club, but it does seem to be that maybe they're looking at moving one player out before they get players in. So again, this is kind of sometimes we see this noise from Man United as well, don't we? We think whether we're going to see a deal done and whether Man United need to get players moved out first. But this is why there's a lot of talk about this as well. There was also a story saying that Manchester United would be hoping to get Tchouaméni on a contract that is lower than the contract currently he gets at Real Madrid. And there's been people speculating as well of ways around that. I think Wizabet was in the comments yesterday saying maybe a bonus up front and they can still then maintain the integrity of their wage structure. But there's a lot of questions, isn't there? So with Tchouaméni, when we're looking at some transfers in this transfer window, I look at the transfer and go, right, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's not that expensive. You can see how the deal works. And with this one, when you look at Tchouaméni, it just feels like there's a lot of questions. Like there's the question of like, does Tchouaméni want to leave Real Madrid? And if Tchouaméni did want to leave Real Madrid or is forced out, does he choose Manchester United as an option? Are Man United actually seriously going to be breaking their wage structure, or are they going to be looking at some way around that? Also, if Tchouaméni leaves Real Madrid, surely lots of other clubs are going to be on watch ready. They're going to be Man United are not going to get a free run at this. Surely, like Tchouaméni is too good a football player for Man United to be the only club interested or the only club able to meet that sort of valuation. Also, are Man United going to be paying a record club fee as well? Because it's going to take a record fee. I did see something last night. I think the source was IndyCar, so I didn't really pay too much attention, but the story was being put out there late last night that Man United have made an offer, and I think the price they looked at was £70 million. I think that in terms of this one, 100 million is going to be the minimum that Real Madrid accept. At the moment, people are quoting 100 million euros. I would be genuinely surprised if we're not looking at closer to 100 million pounds. Like too many for me. There's no way he's going to be a cheaper signing than some of the players we're looking at. I just cannot see that as well. So let me jump into the comments as well and see what people are thinking. And so just to put context as well, I've got a poll running in the comments. Do you think Manchester United will end up with Tchouaméni as a football player? Because I think that's going to be a very what's the word? I still think it's a very small percentage, but you never know. You never know that sometimes crazy things happen. I just don't think it's the most likely option at the moment. That's what I'm thinking. So I'll go through some of the chat, but also welcome everyone to comments. Hope everyone's having a good day. Curtis says, I cannot see us being close to signing too many. They might be selling players, but not for a second do I see him being sold. And then you have to ask, what's the price tag? So I'm kind of in the same sort of boat where I look at it thinking, like too many. I'm going to drag a few comments if not because you're agreeing with what I'm saying, but it's a lot of what people are thinking. That too many's price. If you have to guess too many's price, I can't see how too many cost less than Anderson. Anderson's a good football player. Too many is a world class player and has been for a number of years. I cannot see any reality where, if you look at it, Elliot Anderson is getting paid what potentially like 250, 300k at Manchester City. Too many is a better football player than Anderson at the moment. And at the moment, like you get another good 5 years out of Too many as an elite player. I cannot see a reality where he's going to be significantly cheaper. If Tonali, like I think Tonali might be exactly the same age as Too many as well. If Tonali cost 100 million and is rumoured also to be on quite a big salary at Spurs, surely like too many is a better football player than, or at least maybe people can argue, people can disagree. They play slightly different positionally, but I can't see how Tonali would be a more expensive option than too many. But that's kind of the reality. They're the same age, so if some players cost a bit more because they're younger, you get two players the same age. I think Tonali's obviously a good football player, and Spurs have got a good signing, but I just can't see a reality where they're going to be the same or the cheaper. But at the moment, I did say that we would cover this story, and if something happens, and we look at, maybe some developments will happen as well. Because at the moment, the story is Manchester United flew over to Madrid, had conversations with Real Madrid. Obviously, too many is in the USA in the World Cup, and at the moment, I would say they're playing Morocco. I can't see a reality where too many comes home particularly soon from the World Cup. I think he's going to be there until the final. But if they do get eliminated, maybe we'll see something. I think I would be genuinely surprised though if Real Madrid look around their squad and think the best way of like financing a big move is to sell too many. I'd be very surprised with this one. So let's have a look at some of the comments as well. So if you've got some thoughts on this one, now please get them in as well. Be up to Cody and Bilal in the chat as well. Scott says, I've seen they said they want him, but he needs to drop his wages in order to get him. So I think maybe Man United. Does anybody agree with this one? This is. I'll give them a bit of credit to readers the better in the comments because I think you said this yesterday. And if you're looking at the situation, would Manchester United be looking at just say hypothetically, if Man United get this deal done? So let's put him in a Man United shirt. I saw this online earlier as well. If Manchester United get the too many deal done, then maybe a way around it, because I don't think you want a massive disparity in the wage bill. You don't want too many coming in on like twice the money of Umbremo or Cunha or something like that. I think that's not going to be ideal. But maybe too many would be in line for it. Maybe they could give them some sort of signing on bonus, which I think most players will be getting, but it might be a bit more confidential, might be a bit maybe not so much public knowledge. But I think that you can't give too many a worse contract than he's getting at Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid apparently have got an offer on the table. They want him to re-sign, want him to extend, and I'm guessing that Real Madrid they're not going to be offering them exactly the same terms. I'd imagine it's definitely going to be an improvement because Tchouaméni has been an extremely good player over the last few years for Real Madrid. I think he'd definitely be getting a pay rise. So the contract is on at the moment. Manchester United might well be offering a lower one if the deal did start happening or coming close to happening. Whereas the difference between Manchester United's offer and too many, the offer he might get from Real Madrid might be even greater. So it makes me a bit skeptical that Man United can get this sort of deal done. It seems unrealistic, but there might be ways around it as well. There does seem to be a lot of Spanish media really pushing this story out. That's why there seems to be, this is why it seems to keep going on and on. So I did say we'll talk about it if it's in the media, but I can't really sit here and say I think it's going to be the most likely deal. I think the Alex Scott situation is probably just as like, probably more likely actually. So Alex Scott are currently, I think a few people posted as well. Jim was sharing stuff in the Discord and posting information in the stream saying that Alex Scott refuses to sign an extension at Bournemouth. So for me, that starts kind of pushing his price down a little bit. If Alex Scott is going to be happy to let his contract lapse and go into, I think it's like his contract at the moment is good until 2028. So I think Bournemouth will not want him to drop into the final year of his contract because we saw what happened with Mark Gahey. If Bournemouth value him at £80 million, that valuation will certainly start plummeting in the next year. But Wizard Better says, I think we can get too many for 105 million euros. I actually think it's going to be pretty close to Anderson money. Like it's going to be a record for Manchester United. So this, I think the current record is probably nearly 10 years ago, isn't it, with Paul Pogba? So Manchester United are going to have to definitely break the transfer record. They're probably going to have to give him quite a big bonus. If you're looking at this sort of deal, it probably means that if Man United did get too many deal done, I would be kind of like not quite so. I wouldn't be expecting other big deals to come in. It would be a surprising one, but again, Alex says they won't find a better opportunity for someone of his caliber. And I did see something else as well. Journalists are talking about this and saying, you know how Manchester United have said that they have certain valuations, certain amounts they want to pay for players like Matheus Fernandes. They had a valuation they wanted to meet. I think Tonali wasn't rated at the same value that Spurs and Newcastle obviously rated him at. And with too many, maybe too many falls into a very small bracket of players where, and Man United have said this over the last year or so, that if they see a player that's too good an opportunity, like Alex is saying, is this the one opportunity where you break the rules? So Man United have these rules in place where we have this wage structure, we have this age of player, we have this amount they want to pay. You know, they might go, all right, here's some midfielders. We value these players at 60 to 80 million pounds max. We don't want to go above that for Tonali. We don't want to go above that for Matheus Fernandes. But maybe if you got too many, for me, too many is like a different case, isn't it? If Man United want to get too many, there is literally no way you can negotiate to the same extent as you tried to do with. You can't try and offer less than Tonali, surely. So I think you're probably going to have to. I would say that this could be and again, this is why I say I think it's unrealistic because this would mean that Manchester United do the sort of deal that maybe we used to do years ago, where you would be finding Man United signing probably the most expensive player in the club's history. So, because of the way transfers have been going, I know they've been getting more and more expensive, but Manchester United's transfer strategy seems to be about going for younger players, trying to get lower salaries in the books, trying to get cheaper deals done. So that's why there's all these kind of things. That too many would just be a massive outlier in terms of our strategy. But if we did get him, it would be probably. I think most people, based on the comments at the moment and based on the poll, I think most people would be genuinely surprised. But I think most people would say, if you want to close the gap to the top teams in the Premier League, this this probably feels like the sort of signing you need to do. You need to go to one of the best teams in the world and get one of the better players. It just seems that because you're talking about a world class player in Madrid, if Man United did get this, it would be a surprise. But again, I think most people, probably about 2 months ago when we talked about too many, a lot of people put too many as one of the best options out there. But I think most of us said it felt a bit unrealistic. That's probably the reason why we tend to like look at other deals and go, right, Believer feels like a bit more likely. Alex Scott feels a bit more likely. I would say Matheus Fernandes, I thought was a done deal, but and maybe with too many, I just thought too many wouldn't be allowed to leave Real Madrid. That's essentially why I've kind of ruled him out a little bit. And maybe this represents Manchester United's current kind of shortlist where you got too many. Believe and Alex Scott are there. Is someone like Santos from Chelsea? Is Santos going to be a backup if Manchester United, like, if the reality happens and we see that maybe the situation where like too many isn't possible at all, maybe Santos is going to be the backup for too many. So it could be something like that. And maybe like with this one, no one knows how much Believer's going to cost. That it's rumoured that Brighton still want to get maybe £80 million plus for him. In which case, I think Man United might be looking at that deal as well, thinking actually that's way too much money. We don't really rate him at that sort of price. In which case, he is the one person that is going to be the one person that does genuinely want to join Man United, it seems as well. Be up to you, Kazi. Hope you're good, mate. And welcome to the chat, Cake. So Lucky Singh is saying Real Madrid want Morten Hjulmand and Elise. They definitely want Elise. Elise would cost a sort of money that would maybe require a big sale. So I would say that. So if you're looking at deals, Elise would be the most expensive deal, I think, in terms of like transfers I've seen talked about for a long time. So Elise would be, I don't know, you're probably talking 200 million plus, aren't you, for Elise? And if Real Madrid want Schulman, then there's rumours they want Angela Stiller as well. So I think Real Madrid do look like they want to sign players, and maybe that's the only way Man United get some of these. So it could be that Real Madrid want to change things a lot, and maybe that, yeah, apart from Camavinga, I'd imagine most of the players at Real Madrid, you're looking at probably some of the elite players like Valverde, and any player that leaves the club is going to be, a big improvement to any other club he goes to as well. But if they went for Hillman and Elise, then maybe they need to balance the book somewhere, but also maybe they need to create a few positions. Like they have got a lot of squad. There's going to be limited game time as well. So Jeff says, just a question: how many over the years? How many players have come from Real Madrid, Barcelona to England? I think from Manchester United, you probably look at trying to think of which players you probably got terms of like obviously Casemiro recently. You look at who's the guy we keep trying to forget about. That I suppose you got Modric going to no, not Modric. You got Ozil going to Arsenal. You've got the player that uh, joined Man United, which for some reason his name escapes me, but you know who I mean. The one that we didn't like very much, the one that Ashley Young pushed into the advertising boards. I think that, to be honest, that you look at players from Real Madrid and Barcelona, and usually it's a step down if you leave that club. So again, it's very difficult because, like Gareth Bale said it quite perfectly as well, saying that when you join Real Madrid or Barcelona, a lot of the domestic games are quite easy. There's less pressure as well that you're going to, okay, there is pressure to win the league, but you're pretty much in a two-horse race. But in terms of this, Jeff, none of these players that have left Real Madrid or Barcelona have come cheap. And usually they leave Real Madrid or Barcelona because Real Madrid and Barcelona have got a succession plan and they've got better players lined up. The issue with like too many for me is, can you think of many players out there around you, let's say the top five leagues in Europe, that you could see Real Madrid upgrading on too many? I think too many for me, because he's in his prime, I can't see how you upgrade on too many. Like too many is like just a world class player. And it's a bit like Elise as well. Bayern Munich will not want to sell Elise. And if Elise does go, that's going to be insane sort of money as well. Lucky Singh is saying that, say, Alex Scott or too many with Santos can be bought. I think, interestingly, if you look at it, too many and Santos are incredibly similar profiles, though obviously a big difference in quality and what they've done over the last couple of seasons and experience as well. But I think too many and Andre Santos seem like so similar that it just seems that Santos is a backup if you can't get too many. Alex Scott, I think, is going to be decent defensively, and maybe they see something in Alex Scott for the future as well. But potentially, if they genuinely want £80 million for Alex Scott, I think that's a problem. I don't think Man United should be spending £80 million on Alex Scott, but no, we'll have to see. Jeff says, Kate said it best. I'm listening from out here. Now, big up to you, Jeff, in Texas. Hope you're good. Hope you're enjoying the World Cup. I know it's not a great result for USA last night, but it's getting to the stage of the World Cup now where I think we're going to be looking at France, Spain as the teams to beat. Now, at the moment, so are people starting to look at Man United and thinking, is this transfer? Is it too early to say this transfer window is being messed up, or is it still a long way to go? So we're talking about the first week of July is just gone. Manchester United, we're still waiting on Edison to come back, have his medical, though that's going to happen pretty soon after Brazil got knocked out. So that's going to be a done deal, officially a done deal very, very soon. The question is going to be, how have we managed to go through this long now and not signed a second player? We've sort of, we've seen Spurs sign six players. I'm not saying that it's going to be best to get players rushed through, but Man United have had a long time to prepare for this. We've been effectively from the day the window closed last summer. Man United fans and the club have clearly been looking at midfielders, and we've gone pretty much a whole year, and so far just signing Edison, it feels a bit underwhelming. I saw something last night. Actually, Jules mentioned something last night that he knows of somebody that's a Brazil fan that's from Brazil, and his opinion on Edison was not particularly complimentary, but that could be international based rather than what he's been doing domestically. But I think at the moment, that's the only confirmed deal. It feels a bit underwhelming at the moment. I'll say Carrick will be embarrassed next season. I don't. I think Carrick. I think Carrick seems to be the sort of manager and the coaching. I think they'll get the best out of the players available, but I think the best out of the players available is probably not going to meet the expectation of what Man United fans think that the team should be capable of. I think if you look at the players coming in, and Man United are not spending the sort of money that's required. Again, I don't think United need to spend crazy money, but you do need to at least appreciate there is a sort of market value you can't go below. But Yardley says at least there will be a world record. It could be. I'm trying to think what is the record like. How much did Neymar cost? How much officially did some of the other massive deals cost? I think at least they will definitely be a record in recent years. I don't know how much the current record is officially, but if you're talking about, was it like 220 million euros or something like that? You're talking about a couple £100 million, and that's rumored to be a figure that Bayern Munich will say no to. So, potentially we could be looking for something astronomical, but I'd imagine, like, can Real Madrid do that sort of thing? I don't think so. I'd be very surprised. I don't think Real Madrid can just offer 200 to 250 million without offsetting that by selling some players. So it could be, again, maybe a small percentage. I'd say like 10%. Maybe you could see too many leaving the club. But this situation could suddenly change. Now, in a couple of weeks' time, we could be looking at it thinking, that too many is going to be leaving, and maybe we will change our views. But I'm just saying at the moment, it just feels a little bit unlikely as well. Yeah, Di Maria was a player I forgot for some reason. But I forgot about Di Maria. No, but you tend to look at it and say that you don't really get value from Real Madrid. So you got Di Maria, Casemiro, quite expensive. I think they're both about £60 million. I don't know how much Di Maria got paid, but we sold him quite quickly. But if you're looking at how much Casemiro got paid, it was a big salary, wasn't it? So if you're looking at too many, there's no way around it. It's going to be a massive expenditure for Man United, and it's surely going to compromise a little bit of the other targets in the window. Because I think a lot of us were probably like a month ago saying, what if Man United sign like some cheaper midfielders? We looked at Angela Stiller, and people were talking about, potentially you could get Hackney, or potentially you could look at, slightly cheaper midfielders and then spend quite big on Lewis Hall. So it feels like there's a finite amount of money to spend. Man United are not going to be able to sell Agate now, so which would have been a little bit of money coming in. I don't see much in terms of links with Xerxes. Anana's been loaned out. Marcus Rashford has gone pretty quiet as well. So in terms of all these players that we could sell, it's only really Rasmus has actually gone through and brought decent money in. And at the moment, maybe that's affecting the cash flow in the short term. But it seems that Man United, that if they go big on if they go big on Casemiro's replacement and get too many, I think most of us will look at it and go, okay, the first team actually looks very good. We've got decent options in most positions, but the backups are a bit sparse, and the squad depth looks a little bit shaky, to say the least. So it would look a bit like we have to compromise a little bit. And was it Neymar 223? I was going to guess something like 220. I don't know. Is that in euros or is that in pounds? But I'm thinking regarding this one that DHEX is saying it's 100 million euros, not pounds. If this is the price expectation for too many? It might be that the media is saying 100 million euros at the moment. The question is going to be, though, can you see? Like, I can't see too many going for Matheus Fernandes money. Like, Matheus Fernandes goes for 85 million. I cannot see too many going for the same sort of price. Like, he's surely got to be significantly more. At the moment, like, Matheus Fernandes has got great potential, but he's not close to too many at the moment. Like, too many for me walks into any international team. So it's going to be pretty crazy. Big up to you in the chat, Gregory. Good to see you, my friend. Yeah, exactly. 223 million for Neymar. Great business, wasn't it? No, it's great business for the club that sold him. Now, I would say with this one, if you're looking at the deal, at least say at the moment is a top quality player. There's not that many players that elevate themselves beyond like the average. You could look at some of those very, very good players, but at least say Haaland, Mbappe, too many. You could probably make an argument for, maybe from England perspective, you look at Bellingham against Mexico. There's a few players that are standing out in the World Cup, but they're going to be astronomical price. We're talking about Tonali and Matheus Fernandes not even qualifying for the World Cup, and actually not even being selected in Matheus Fernandes' case, and they're already costing 85 million. So yeah, I would be very surprised if too many is going to be less than 100 million pounds. But Again, if he goes for less than £100 million, there's obviously going to be some factors in there. I'd be imagining that some agents are getting paid, and certainly too many will be getting paid, whether it's bonuses or something like that. I think his contract would be pretty big, but I'd imagine there might be lots of other money changing hands that aren't necessarily factored in the overall transfer fee. He's not going to be cheap, is he? And Elizabeth said Rashford did stipulate that if his future isn't decided before the World Cup, he will resolve it after. And yeah, I'm still expecting him to go. I think with England doing quite well in the World Cup, maybe it's just going to be taking a bit longer as well. Yanni said about I've seen that I've not read Di Maria's interview, but so the main reason was unhappy with Louis van Gaal. Um, Maybe the problem is, I suppose, if you're gonna sign for a club, then yeah, managers aren't going to be there that long. So I think it's the same issue. Beckham had the same issue at Real Madrid. There were managers he didn't get on with, but Beckham's response to adversity was to just step up and improve. So I think that Di Maria can complain and moan, but I'd have to say that if you don't agree with the manager, there's a way of winning him round and performing on the pitch. And Di Maria did look good for a bit. So um, again, I think Di Maria's got to take some responsibility. Obviously, the football wasn't great that season either. Okay. I was going to say this, Kate. I've been saying this for a while that if you look historically, the only team that didn't spend and won the Premier League title was Leicester. So if Man United think they can do like the 5,000 to 1 and go for like a wage bill mid-table and win the Premier League, then good luck trying. But I think it's going to end in tears at some point. But no, Real Madrid is showing. I think actually Man City is showing what you do to win the league. You're pretty much spending pretty big, and you have to get the key players through the door. The thing is, Man United are constantly trying to catch up with Man City. How do you catch up with a team that signs Mark Gahey, Semenyo, and Anderson? They're effectively signing one of the best centre backs, the best attacking midfielders, and best midfielder in the league in the space of 6 months. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to try and catch up with City. And if Man United do that, too many for me ticks a box and does actually move us a bit closer. If Man United went for Alex Scott, I think he's good, but Alex Scott, Anderson, and Santos, it does feel very much like let's hope we get there in the future rather than let's make sure we get there in 1 to 2 years. Jeff says since 1989, which is going back a bit, this is the worst squad I've seen on paper heading into a season. Say good keeper, fairly strong front four. I think in terms of like the squad overall, I think if you're going to like go 1 to 11 and say how many positions we've got covered, I think it's probably one of the weaker squads in terms of like I think Cunha and Buemo, Sesko, Lamans. I think they're definitely very good players in those positions. But the midfield at the moment, Curry Mainu is the only midfielder we've got senior midfielder on the books at the moment that I think is good enough. I did read something this morning that Man United's pre-season tour must start what in about is it like 6 or 7 days, and at the moment it's looking like they're going to have Mason Mount plus Fletcher in midfield. So they're going to have a player that's probably more of a 10 and a couple of academy players fighting for midfield positions. And this is going to be our pre-season. This is our preparation for the Premier League next season. It hasn't got the players in at the moment. I think there's always going to be it's a World Cup year, so it's going to be an issue for other teams. But you can imagine that in a contrast, Spurs are going to have Fernandez, Tonali. They're going to have like 3, 4, 5 games together. So a good preparation for that team. It's just annoying, isn't it? I think with Jeff as well, I would say I do agree with this, Jeff. The problem is Man United might well sign players in about 4 or 5 weeks' time, and you might sign players. Might sign some good players in August. The problem is by the time they actually come around to actually getting into Carrington and starting training, the season will be starting, and Man United are going to have 2 or 3 on paper quite easy games, but we might not be that well organised, and our preparation for the start of the season is going to be compromised probably. And a lot of people were saying in the chat early on, this might put pressure on Carrick, and it's going to be frustrating, isn't it? Because Michael Carrick definitely needs his people in. Yeah, at the moment, I think pre-season is going to be effectively an academy tour, isn't it? It's going to be an academy tour plus Mason Mount. I'm trying to think who else is around the squad. probably Harry Maguire. I guess it's basically the players that weren't deemed good enough to play in the World Cup, plus the academy are going to be doing the tour. I mean, that sounds a bit negative, but I think it's the reality of where we are, that we just don't have lots of good players in the squad at the moment. Beyond that, I think the first 11 is decent, but beyond that, it is a bit of a concern, isn't it? I mean, I don't want to have a stream next year where last season every international break was like a crisis. It was about bad results and there's pressure on the manager. Man United need to avoid that sort of noise next season because it's not going to be good for anybody, and it's going to put pressure on Michael Carrick. I mean, Michael Carrick's going to have big enough issue trying to actually work out how to get the best out of the team in the Champions League and the Premier League, with something we didn't have last season. And with about Jeff, everybody's right that Man United need to reinforce this team and at least give Carrick a fighting chance. Like it's going to be difficult, and you're going to have to give like most people in the last season would say Michael Carrick got good results, one game a week with the squad he had. You fast forward to this season, there's going to be, I think, there's going to be a higher expectation for fans because I don't think Man United fans are going to be tolerating a mid-table performance. And once you finish third in the league, you've got to try and build on that, and maintain the Champions League status of the club. But also, I think people are not going to be accepting if Manchester United have an issue. Let me just, for some reason the web camera's gone a bit. Let me just bring this back. And I think Man United fans probably have given Ineos quite a lot of leeway. I think a few people are starting to hit the wall a little bit regarding this as well. Kenny said, "I'm not watching pre-season with kids." Yeah, maybe we won't win. Maybe we should get Alan Hansen to comment on the squad depth. But no, zero signings at the moment. I think pre-season for me is genuinely what it should be. Is like it's a way of actually getting the team playing as a unit, reintegrate the new players as well. Maybe give academy players some games. I think it's normal to get academy players in the team, but it just looks a little bit like at the moment, zero signings. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the squad, isn't there? I think our first game is away to Hull, and they're going to be coming to the Premier League, hoping to try and get something out of the first few games. And it's going to be we're probably going to be facing a low block for the first couple of games. And if Man United aren't hitting the ground running and ready to play, it's going to be very, very frustrating. If we start the Premier League season with a couple of draws, fans are going to be losing their patience very early on. Yannis says Stiller looks to be heading to Spurs. If it feels a bit like I don't know, Man United basically having a short list and Spurs are using that as their menu and going, actually, we'll have these options. Angela Stiller for me he wasn't really the top target. I think Anderson, too many felt like they were probably the best possible players available. But no, Angela Stiller was definitely a player that people talked about as a maybe cost-effective option. If if we, it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? If you're looking at the situation, then I don't know. It's De Zerbi just going all out for our targets. I think it's just that these players are available, aren't they? These players are there to sign, and it's just at the moment Man United are not making these deals. They're not doing any deals, and Spurs. Now these the deals are there to be done. We know what the price is going to cost, and at the moment, if Angela Stiller is going to be potentially, how much is Angela Stiller going to cost? Like 50 million, 60 million? If Spurs sign him, then I mean, God, yeah, being featured chained by Spurs is something I never thought would happen. To be honest, um, Jill says, "Do you think we're waiting till the Amazon cameras are in to introduce new players?" I think doesn't the Amazon deal bring in about £10 million? And for me, that's pennies. Like, or was it 20? How much does Amazon bring in? I think at the moment the Amazon deal is roughly similar to having a logo on a sleeve of a Manchester United shirt. It's like maybe 10, 15, £20 million max. In the context of things, to jeopardize anything based on that would be a base level, just incompetent, wouldn't it? It'd be really stupid, bit naive. If Man United are genuinely doing that and waiting for the cameras to roll up before buying players, then they're idiots, essentially. But I really hope that's not the case, Jules. The thing is, though, you can joke about it. You never know, do you? Um, it wouldn't be the first time Man United have done something for shirt sales or camera or something like that as well. Yeah, the thing is that Man United have got money to spend, haven't they? The thing is, at the moment, if Manchester United wait to the end of the window, aren't we just going to be spending? Aren't we going to be buying the same players, but they just cost more? That's the frustrating thing. I don't think these deals are going to be getting any cheaper as well. Welcome to the chat, Gray. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're good. But I think people are generally getting a little bit disappointed with what's happening. Angela Stiller was going to be the cost-effective option to replace Agati and Mount. 100% Gregory. I think when we looked at the transfer window, and if you look at the most expensive players, Anderson's going to be huge money, and he was. I think Tonali was always going to be too expensive, and he was. Too many feels unrealistic, but very, very expensive. And I think if you look at trying to get some sort of value at the market, if it's possible to get value, Angela Stiller, probably Hayden Hackney, probably Sangari. They might have been your options. So you might have looked at it and going, right, if you want to get a good quality football player for less than £50 million, then there's probably diminishing options. And maybe Angela Stiller is still available for that sort of price. It depends. We talked about Turkey a lot last season on Red Devil United, and Turkey was going to be, I think we said like 25 million, and I don't think City paid loads more than that. Obviously, Turkey wasn't interested. We didn't have Champions League football, so there are deals out there to be done. That's the frustrating thing. There are deals to be done. Scott says people panicking already. We move slow in transfer windows and say how it's been for the last 10 years. But you've got to look at it, Scott. Is it not going to be a problem that if Man United moves slowly, do you not look at it and think every deal you're going to do, like just for example, I'll quickly go through like Alex Scott as an example. So Manchester United, Alex Scott. The rumours were that Man United valued him at £50 million. It looked like maybe Bournemouth would take 65 about 2 months ago. You fast forward to like the second week of July, we're talking about £80 million. The good thing about this deal and the good thing about this story is Alex Scott, his contract is until 2028. He is not extending at the moment. Contract offers are put in front of him. According to sources, he is not signing anything at the moment. So, with that in mind, the Alex Scott situation, the power still is with the player. I'd imagine that Bournemouth, they've said he's not for sale, but I think they're going to want him to sign a new contract. I think they will probably put an offer on the table that is going to effectively give him a very high salary. So if he did move clubs, he's probably not going to benefit from the high salary. But I imagine Bournemouth are desperate to get a release clause in there to try and guarantee they get a certain price. Just think Semenyo a year ago. Semenyo signed a big extension. They put the release clause in there. It kind of effectively gave all the power back to Bournemouth, and kind of they got to choose how much Semenyo was going to cost. So they got to put in, was it 65 plus 5 or 60 plus 5? So they got to decide the price of Semenyo. I think Bournemouth are going to do the same thing about Alex Scott. I think they're going to have an idea of how much they want. It might be that they want 80, and it might be that because Mathis Flanders went for 85, they feel that they're going to stick with that as a valuation. And maybe they do put in a release clause that's going to be like 75, £80 million. And then if anybody does want him, he's going to cost exactly that. I think if I was Alex Scott at the moment, I think if Alex Scott just refuses to sign a contract, and that does look to be the case, maybe there's going to be maybe there's going to be a situation where they can look at lowering that price as well. So I think Frank Scott is going to have to just wait it out and see. But it might be that Bournemouth offer him a contract that's just too good to refuse. So if he's going to get a huge pay rise to stay and then effectively probably leave in January, maybe he would do that sort of situation. Newcastle fans are delighted with what they got for Tonali. Yeah, Newcastle, I would say 100 million for Tonali. Great business, really. He cost, what, £50 million a couple of years ago. Big return as well. I think he was looking for a big contract. It does mean, I suppose, with Newcastle, that Newcastle last season, they did spend quite big money on not great players. So it depends who they replaced him with. Gordon for 70 million. He was very, very good in the Azteca Stadium. Whether he can like keep on that sort of form. Maybe Barcelona actually didn't get such a bad deal after all. We'll have to see. But I think Newcastle fans might be happy at the moment. I think they should just hold fire and just see what they get for like, their money. Like if Newcastle buy worse players for the same money, it won't be great, which was pretty much what they did last season. Sangari, great acquisition, 55. Yeah, there are deals there to be done. I'm kind of waiting for So DHEX is still a cost 100 million. I'm kind of waiting for the next story where any sort of players we talk about are suddenly going to be really hyped up in price as well. Okay, yeah, no, that's why I've got a poll, and I said, look, we'll put a poll in the chat. At the moment, I think it's overwhelmingly negative in terms of like expectation for too many. But at the moment, it's like 50, it's nearly 50-50. So if you think Man United are going to sign too many, let me know why. Because at the moment, it's kind of 50-50. Mike, I'm kind of I'm more skeptical because Manchester United, the last time Man United started spending this sort of money on a player, which you go like Paul Pogba had got like several titles in a row at Juventus. He cost very big money, and I don't think Man United have done a deal for a player that's kind of that sort of profile. We probably overspent on Sancho and Anthony, but they weren't the son. They hadn't really proved themselves for multiple years. Too many has. So I would be, if Man United did spend massive on too many, I would, let me reiterate, I would be very happy with the deal because I just want Man United to get the best possible players. I genuinely don't care to how much the players cost. I'm more focused on have Man United got a team to try and win the Premier League or to get closer to win the Premier League. I think too many does push us closer. And so to be honest, like the price is going to be irrelevant, isn't it? If Man United lock up Champions League football and are in a title race year after year, it's going to pay for itself. So, so a lot of comments. I was trying to pick out some comments, but everyone like suddenly started saying hello to everybody, so I missed a load of them. But big up to you, Debastis, as well in the chat. Andy, good to see you, my friend. Yeah, this is Gray's account as well. I don't think Newcastle are going to get relegated either, as well. Yeah, I think I'll leave the Rashford conversation until any sort of information comes out. But it feels a bit like if I drove around where I live with a massive loudspeaker saying I was desperate to buy something, it's only going to push the price up, isn't it? And Man United aren't doing that. They're obviously not saying they're desperate, but let's be realistic here. I think if you look at Man United's squad at the moment, we've got Mainu as a midfielder, and then the options are Edison's going to be signed quite soon after a medical, and then we've got Mason Mount in the academy. That is not close, is it? That's not kind of what I was promised. Manchester United said we were going to get Elliot Anderson, too many, and I think Matheus Fernandes. And I know that was unrealistic, and it's going to cost probably the best part of £300 million. But I looked at that and thought, actually, yeah, that would be a world class midfield. And at the moment, my expectations are I don't honestly know what to expect at the moment. I say, if you're thinking like £60 million caps the price, then maybe maybe Man United are looking at say for £60 million. I think you're looking at Angela Stiller, Sangare, maybe not Alex Scott at that price unless Alex Scott flatly refuses to sign any contract at all. You can make an offer for Belieber, but I'm not sure Brighton are going to be happy to sell him for that sort of price. I think Buwadi's going to be more expensive as well. Hackney's gone. I'm struggling to think of players you can buy for that sort of price in this current market. I think Sangari and Angela Stiller feel like the ones you could get. So if Man United signed those, it would feel it would be a bit strange because Man United have been pushing this rhetoric that we're going to go for Premier League proven, etc., etc. And whether you agree with that or not, it would be a bit strange if Man United signed three midfielders and none of them have played in the Premier League. And for me, if you're going to do that, it just kind of makes it more important that you've got to go get these players in early. That if you're going to be bringing in a player from the Bundesliga, a player from the French league, who else did I mention? And if you're looking at going for three players in different leagues, bringing them into the Premier League, it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? So if we go for one from Serie A, one from the Bundesliga, one from the French league, and go right, this is our midfield, but we don't get them in until the end of the window, it's just going to be a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? Berber says, I wonder when this Amazon series starts filming. Here, you're not the first person to say that. Not the first. Is it me or are people just going to be? There's a mixture of like cynicism, I think, in the chat today, where a lot of people, I think most people don't believe the media, which is fine because I think the media quality has diminished massively over the last few years. I think probably say 2 or 3 years ago, when we used to talk about transfers on the channel, and we're looking at on Red Devil United, we've covered this quite a lot. We look at Fabrizio and go, right, this is going to happen. We'd look at other sources and like Ornstein and go, right, these are credible sources. This is going to happen. And all we've seen recently is there's lots more noise and less actually information. It feels a bit like there's just more filler and not really much actually useful substance anymore. And so when you see it, that Man United are interested, or Man United are, I think somebody posted something on, I think it might be in like Lee Gunner's channel, or someone like posted a clip from that. And it was all the kind of things they say journalists go interested in. I think Ben Jacobs actually came up with a new one about a week ago saying Man United are going to muscle in, whatever that means. I think it means effectively nothing. Man United are interested in Buari, but that's about it. It's like I'm interested in, I don't know, winning the lottery, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But the Amazon series, you're not the first person to mention this, Ryan. If anybody knows when the series starts filming, is it going to be effectively right? Day one, Amazon starts filming. Day two, Manchester United announce signing number two. Day three, Manchester United announce another signing. So is this going to be like one of those Amazon series where it's going to look like absolutely loads? Rob, I'm not going to disagree, but what I'll say is that someone just posted a clip I saw. So I wonder whether this one, that this is pretty cynical though. It's pretty much along the same lines as Manchester United saying, do you think like Man United sign players just because they think it's going to be a marketing or a PR reason? So if you're going to make signings as a fan, then I think too many probably is the one signing that elevates the first team. He's going to generate attention in our team, and he's going to be somebody that fans look up to. People will buy shirts, no doubt, etc. So, from a commercial point of view, too many's a massive name. It's a marketing win, but also in terms of football, it's a definite win as well. Like he's definitely going to be one of the best players on the pitch in midfield. And if you're looking at this, in the past, I think Man United have sometimes signed players where you look at them and go, is this just a PR signing? It doesn't really fit what we need as a football club. Why are we doing this deal? And I think for some of the deals we're doing, that some of the younger players with less of a what's the word, less of a profile, then obviously they're going to be ones where people that are cynical will say, is this player signed because he's quite a cheap option? But again, there's a lot of different reasons why this. I think for me, why too many is a good signing is because you're going to benefit a lot. So filming starts on Thursday. So should we? This is kind of a quick question then. Should we be expecting some sort of news coming out on Thursday, which is literally 2 days' time, isn't it? So are we going to be expecting something to come out on Thursday? Because Amazon documentary, like the Amazon documentary, can't just be people scrolling through Twitter and reading angry comments out, can it? Something's got to happen. At the moment, I'd be imagining that day one Amazon documentary is going to be Manchester United medical Edison completed. Here we go, first signing of the window, and it'll be yeah, we finally got an extra signing, and there we go from there. But at the moment, it does feel a bit like the Amazon documentary for me is not a priority, and if it is a distraction, it's pretty embarrassing for the club. I think at the moment that the problem we've got is people are going to be it could be, but I think it could be one positive it could be, Gregory, is would the Glazers and Sir Jim Radcliffe want a documentary that makes them look massively incompetent? Like clearly they don't want that, but I didn't watch the Amazon documentary for Arsenal because, to be honest, watching Arsenal for 180 minutes a season is about enough for me. But based on that, the Glazers and Sir Jim, like Jim wants to be the hero, we know that, and the Glazers, I'm guessing the Glazers are probably going to be not filmed that much either because I think anything they say is going to just piss off the fans. I don't think they could say much that isn't going to do that. And Sir Jim, does Sir Jim want to be part of this? Probably does. But I think Sir Jim Radcliffe wants to be the hero. There's no way they were going to do the documentary after finishing 15th, was there? But after finishing third, I think they're going to have to try and they're going to have to get some good players in. Otherwise, we saw what happened last season with the press conferences, with Amarin, with the transfers, with Kobe Mainu, and it doesn't really matter who's in charge, whether it's Carrick, Nagelsmann, whether it would have been like Amarin last season or a random interim manager if things go really wrong, then whatever happens, the press will have a field day if Man United mess up, and Amazon will be capturing all this noise. And so, for if anything, signing an Amazon deal, you'd expect with the Glazers and the gym, you'd have thought that that would be an incentive to actually get things done. I know there's a long way to go in the transfer window, but it does seem to be, I don't know, a bit strange with the decision we're making. I'd say Robinson could be a PR signing as an up and coming USA international nation. I don't know. Do you think that he was like a signing that made sense about 5 years ago, though, Jules? It's hibernating. Yeah, it does feel a bit like that, doesn't it? It feels like our owners have been distracted by the World Cup. I honestly think the owners are at the moment looking to try and do some sort of what's the word? There definitely seems to be I would say with the owners, I think there's definitely going to be some sort of move to try and get some interest in the club in terms of investment. And maybe that's a factor that's going to be behind the scenes as well. I think there's something happening in the World Cup where the Glazers, they must be looking at trying to raise some money. Maybe they want to get some investment in the squad or maybe an investment in Manchester United. And maybe they're struggling to get that. Because I think once they do that, maybe that's going to give them the green light to make some deals. Because at the moment, given like the kind of asset stripping of the club, it probably makes the books look a bit better. No, I would say Gregory at the moment that trust is are low, isn't it? So I don't think too many people are trusting the Glade. It's up to Ineos to change Man United's fans' perspective. Like I don't think you can just get I don't think you can just get trust just based on like what you say. You've got to judge them by their actions. And at the moment, the actions are not happening, are they? Yeah, no, exactly. Yali, like Fabrizio said last night that Man United would not match his salary. I think a lot of people are going to be. This is true. This is true. A lot of people are actually thinking with too many that maybe you have to give some sort of bonuses because they're not going to pay his salary. But Man United aren't that stupid, are they? We can't go to the table with too many and expect them to take a big pay cut to come to United. They're going to have to make it so that's some sort of incentive there. No, I'm just wondering whether, like, we're Man United fans, and most of us are very long-term Man United fans. We're going to be looking at that as well. It's going to feel a bit like a Gary Neville, Jim Radcliffe interview, isn't it? I get the feeling. If it's going to be so redacted, so censored that we look at it and think, what is this bullshit? I just think it's going to be like some like I don't know. I just get the feeling it's going to be some massive PR wank fest for the Ineos and Glazers, and I hope it's not. I hope it is actually going to be some sort of independent thought going into it. But I'd imagine that Man United, like when you have Jim Radcliffe interviews, it gets. I get the feeling that Gary Neville's pretty much been given a question list to run through, and it feels like Jim Radcliffe is not going to answer anything difficult. So I don't know. I think I'm not very trusting of the documentary. I get the feeling it's going to be very watered down and won't really be able to say. It's going to feel a little bit like some of these interviews you see where it's just they're basically just too sycophantic and they don't want to actually question anything too much. Kate's got a question. He says, "What do I think Carrick thinks of the situation?" I think with Carrick, he's probably not going to say anything at all, is he? Then it is difficult to like. I do appreciate that the transfer window is not closed, so it's very difficult to say it's been a really shit transfer window, isn't it? Like the transfer window has not closed. It just feels like it's not even open for Man United, doesn't it? That's the difference. So I don't think it's going to be at the moment. I would say fan perspective is probably three quarters negative, based on like comments I read on a daily basis and based on like feedback. But I think it's like generally going to be quite worrying. So I will, with interest, see clips from Amazon, I'm sure. But I think if I see like no nonsense, I probably will address it and just say, I don't believe this at all. Yeah, I think to be honest, I think the TV, I think Amazon deal is genuinely like a marketing campaign, isn't it? It feels a little bit like they're going to be using that to try and get investment by just highlighting some of the things that it's going to be. I reckon it's going to be just a big PR thing to say, look how much money we're getting in, look at our new shirt sponsors, look at all the revenue streams, and then get investment into the club. That's what I think it's going to be. It's really annoying. You guys said I don't think Real Madrid traveled. Say you don't think United traveled to Real Madrid at all. I don't know actually. I don't know. The journalist said that. The thing I would be thinking is, why on earth would Manchester United need to fly to Real Madrid for a meeting? I mean, most of us, anyone that's worked in a company, the company I used to work for a few years ago, we did a lot of business with Japanese companies, and the time difference is like pretty big. So you'd have meetings ridiculously early in the morning, maybe, or you'd have sometimes like something quite late or quite weird times. But you used to just do it like by video links, and I'm talking about like a small company, like startup company, and company on a budget of a fraction of Manchester United's. And if you got the Glazers in the USA, you got Ineos in the UK, you got Real Madrid in Spain. It's quite easy. It's not that expensive to set up like video links to have the meeting without traveling anywhere. So I don't know if Man United are just trying to, like, is this just a PR thing? Like, who goes to like have a meeting to discuss, like, who flies everybody out to Madrid just to discuss something? Like, have the preliminary talks, like, via like that sort of thing. I don't know. So the person who said we travelled to Spain also said the deal with Edison is off. I saw when people said the deal with Edison was off, then a few YouTube channels got really, really excited. I think I took the night off and just didn't bother addressing it. But no, I don't think so. I think it was. So you think the Prime documentary will essentially be all access? I hope so. I'm just wondering whether it's going to be like very, very censored. And so we do actually have, yeah, we do actually have less players in our squad. Yeah, no, we do. I think people forget about it. Man United don't necessarily sign players, but players' contracts do expire. They move on. Players that were loaned out, still loaned out. So we actually have less players available to choose from. And so the too many story, yeah, my money is on that he's going to stay at Real Madrid. That's kind of where I am at the moment because I'm very skeptical of Manchester United as well. And Boba says, "Have we become too arrogant as a club?" So yeah, I think maybe Man United fans do get accused of being arrogant, but I do think that Man United fans are just very despondent that we know that the money comes into Manchester United, and it's just really annoying as well. Let's see. So, is there any credible information that United have gone to Madrid to discuss a deal? I don't think there is. I mean, if people find out information, please share it. Because I'd say this, like, there's a lot of aggregator accounts on Twitter. I think when you start incentivizing people to share information, and the blue ticks on Twitter has probably ruined the app as a platform, then essentially you get rewarded financially by creating information that people are interested in or share or like it. So it doesn't have to be true. Again, it can be just anything. So people will share information and people will publish tweets and things, and they will say, "Oh, Man United have done this. This has happened. This deal's off," and it will generate attention. But it's very difficult to actually say anything's happened. So I think a lot of other accounts will jump on that and will try and push information as well. And I no worries, Gregory. I cut down to like doing just a 1 p.m. at the moment because there's limited news. I don't want to like hammer the same sort of thing time in, but I will be doing like the 1 p.m. UK time and one. But no, thank you for your support as well, Gregory. I just can't really sit here and say things are true when, yeah, breaking news. Cake is standing behind Sir Jim. No, I think with this one, says Everton are after Spurs as Spence who's at the World Cup. I guess there's going to be a few players leaving as well. Alex says I'd be happy with Santos. Then, to be honest with Santos, if Manchester United sign Santos as a backup, I think my opinion on signings probably goes up or down depending on whether if they're going to be a player that's going to be on the bench, then I'm happy with Santos. If Santos is expected to start every single game, I think it's a bit of yeah. I've become less enthusiastic with that. But I think if Man United got too many and they got another starting option, and then we have Santos and Edison as backups. I would probably be, I would probably be okay with that. But again, it depends on context, doesn't it? If Santos is expected to play 40 games, it becomes a bit. It becomes a what's the word? I think it depends on the context, doesn't it? Santos, if he's going to be an option because Tchouameni's a starting player, is a good option, and he's going to be one for the future for sure. But it's a bit like someone saying, "Do I rate this academy player? Should he get more games?" I think Man United should fix the first team first and then look at some of the options as well. Yanni says we're going to be starting to get desperate if we're happy with Santos. Yes, Santos looks like a good player, and he looks like a player that's going to be good and improving in the future. But the question is always going to be, you know, how is this going to help Man United next season? And it becomes a little bit less attractive. So let's just look at the poll and see what people were voting. So again, it seems that people watching are maybe more enthusiastic than I am, or maybe more confident than I am. Do you think Manchester United will end up signing too many? Yes, say 45%, no, say 55%. So I think generally people don't think it's going to happen. But at the moment, 45 is a high percentage. I'll say that 45 is a high percentage thinking that this deal's got legs. So maybe 45% of people might be getting disappointed at somewhere in the future. I don't know. One thing I was going to do is I did do a poll yesterday and said, would people be interested in more calling shows? And it was an overwhelming 87% of people said, yes, they are interested in more calling shows. So I'm going to try and do one tonight. I was going to check when the games are, but I think in terms of like the football games tonight, then there's quite an early game, like 5 p.m. for Argentina against Egypt. And then after that, there's a game at about, is it 9 p.m., something like that? So in terms of like the games tonight, yeah, 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. I'm guessing the 5 p.m. is going to be done by 7:30. So maybe if people are interested in the calling show, maybe that's going to be time to do it. So maybe like 7 p.m. ish, 7:30 is going to be. So if people are interested in that one, like the Basses said, yeah, I think the Basses, it's not the most interesting games from a neutral today. So maybe we're going to look at, say, if people are interested in joining a calling show, maybe we can look at about 7:30. So if you're interested in that, just like let me know. Just write a yes in the chat. But what I will do is I did say I can do a calling show maybe every few days to discuss this. But again, it's only going to be worthwhile if people join in, take part, and have your say. So what I will do is I'll do one tonight, 7:30. Hopefully, a few people come on. Hopefully, there's a bit of a conversation, and we can cover any sort of transfer news. And then if like it's popular, we'll just do another one in like a few days' time, maybe on the weekend or something. So we can do like a couple a week and see how it goes as well. Yeah, no, that's probably one of the worst matches of the tournament. I think we got on that one. Preseason starts in 11 days. Yeah, it sure does. So I'm going to head off. I'm going to schedule the stream. If people are interested in getting involved, 7:30 tonight, then just let me know. Leave a comment. What I'll probably do is I'll probably put a pinned link like usual in the member section on the YouTube account. But ultimately, everybody will be able to come on, have their say, and we're probably going to run it for maybe 60 minutes, maybe like 75, 90 max. But we'll look at trying to do a shorter stream. So if you want to get involved, please just come in early and just click the link and come on and have your say. And then, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Members, thanks for supporting as well. And also, moderators, thanks for doing a great job. And we will see you hopefully about 7:30 tonight. So then, guys, have a great rest of your day. And yeah, I was thinking a bit like I was so happy that Spain got a goal just because there wasn't an extra 30 minutes. In the same way that I didn't want to stay up an extra 30 minutes to watch England. So I was so grateful that we didn't have to go through that as well. But cheers, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.